Have you ever wondered why, on the first day you buy a sliced bread, it rips like this? But after a few days, it rips like this. This phenomenon is simply known as bread stealing. Hello everybody, my name is Izzreen. So today my group members and I are going to do a workshop presentation on bread stealing. So what is bread stealing?
Hi, I'm Vanessa Wongkai. Stealing refers to the undesirable changes that take place between the time bread is baked and consumed, other than microbial spoilage. It is a consequence of a group of several physical-chemical changes occurring during bread storage that leads mainly to an increase of crumb firmness and loss of freshness. It usually involves loss of aroma, changes in mouthfeel, development of crumbiness, loss of crumb softness, loss of moisture and flavors, and softening of the crust. On stealing, water migrates from crumb to crust and leads to a glass-to-rubber transition of the two components. As a consequence, the crust becomes soft and leathery. Firmness of fresh breadcrumb, as determined by compression test, is low because starch and protein are present in the rubbery state due to high level of water as plasticizer. An increase in firmness and crumbiness is observed as the typical changes in the crumb during aging. Thus, the consumer acceptance of the particular bread product decreases. The two main components of stealing, firming of the breadcrumb, are loss of moisture, mainly due to the migration of moisture from the crumb to the crust, which becomes soft and leathery, and the retrogradation of starch.
So, how does bread stealing occur? Before getting into details, we must first know what are the ingredients used for bread baking. The common ingredients used are flour, sugar, salt, water, oil, and yeast. Flour is the dominant ingredient used in bread, and wheat flour is made out of 70% starch. Starch is a polymer of D-glucose units and occur naturally in plants composed of amylose and amylopectin. Amylose make up about 25% of starch and is continuous unbranched chains of D-glucose units linked by alpha-1,4-glycosidiol bond. Amylopectin make up about 75% of starch and is a branch polymers of D-glucose units linked by alpha-1,4-glycosidiol bond, and the branches are joined by alpha-1,6-glycosidiol bond. So, in order to understand retrogradation, we have to first understand gelatinization. Without it, retrogradation will not happen. As you can see, starch granules are made of numerous linear amylose and branch amylopectins. So let's say these are the starch molecules, the outer appearance of starch molecules, and these are within the starch molecules. When the starch molecules are heated up in the presence of water, the hydrogen bonds holding the starch molecules together are broken down. Eventually, they are far apart from each other, allowing water molecules from the solution to come in and form bonds with the starch molecules. When this happens, the starch molecules swirl as they absorb water. As starch molecules swirl, some of the amylose indicated by red leach out into the solution. When this happens, thickening occurs. As heating continues, some of the starch molecules will rupture, releasing the remaining amylose indicated by red and amylopectin indicated by green into the solution. Then, the starch chains bind with one another, trapping and immobilizing water, finally forming gel. As the solution cools down, this is when the retrogradation happens. The starch network moves closer to each other and eventually return to its crystallized state. This happens as starch molecules shrink, water is released from the gel. As water is expelled, hydrogen bond between the starch molecules reforms. Because water is released, it causes changes in texture over time, giving firmness. Just for your information, amylopectin retrogrades slowly upon cooling after gelatinization and contribute to increased firmness because of its larger size and three-dimensional linking.
Hi, I'm Jahurul, and now we will move on to the ways to slow down stealing. First, it is by enzymes. They slow the rate of crumb forming in a way that may also slow the rate of moisture migration. Enzymes break down a portion of the starch during processing or baking, so it does not cause as much firmness when it links together during storage. Beta amylase and alpha amylase are particularly used to slow down stealing. amylose can be broken down almost completely into maltose sugar by beta amylase, whereas alpha amylase break down amylopectin into smaller dextrin with shorter branches, as amylopectin is not affected much by beta amylase. This is due to the presence of alpha-1,6 glycosidic linkage. Thus, recrystallization of the starch can be delayed, resulting in a softer crumb structure. However, amylase have relatively low thermal stability, so they are added into the dough prior to baking.
Hi, my name is Shweta and I'll be discussing about emulsifiers. Common emulsifiers used are sodium stearoyl 2-lactylates, succinolated monoglyceride, and diacetyl tartaric acid esters of mono and diglycerides, also known as datum. Gluten proteins in a bread dough carry a small positive charge. This hinders the interaction between protein molecules because of ionic repulsion between like charges. The fatty acid part of ionic surfactants like SSL, datum, and SMG binds to the hydrophobic areas on the surface of gluten proteins. The negative charge neutralizes the positive charge from protein amino acids, stopping the ionic repulsion. Datum works in tandem with the effect of monoglycerides. Saturated fatty acids of monoglycerides are more effective than unsaturated versions. The proposed mechanism for this is that straight-chain fatty acids are thought to be more effective at forming complexes with gelatinized starch and in return are able to interfere with starch recrystallization. Emulsifier slows down the staling process by improving moisture retention. Most bakeries use a blend of these functional ingredients.
Hi, I am Binti. Also, certain ingredients can slow down the staling process. Ingredients such as fat, sugar, high protein flour, and others can slow down staling. Fat can slow down retrogradation by sitting in between all those starch molecules, preventing them from forming that more crystalline structure and also increase loaf volume. When the loaf is larger, less dense develop from a more optimum gluten structure, and that will also make a finer, more regular crumb structure and softer breadcrumbs. High protein flours improve crumb softness by contributing to a larger loaf volume. Sugar molecule contain various hydroxyl groups that can interact with the water molecule through hydrogen bonding, thus retaining water.
Hi, I'm Tan Chengman. Last but not least is the storage temperature. At lower temperature, between -1 degree Celsius to 21 degrees Celsius, bread stirring occurs at a faster rate, whereas at high temperature between 32 degrees Celsius to 43 degrees Celsius, the role of the starch crystallization will be less effective. However, at low temperature, which is between -6.7 degrees Celsius to 10 degrees Celsius, the texture of the crumbs tends to firm faster, but in high temperature, which is above 35 degrees Celsius, it will affect the color, texture, as well as the flavor of the bread. Thus, the optimum temperature for storage of bread is between 21 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. The highest crystallinity rate is found at 4 degrees Celsius storage temperature. So, the best way to store bread from the aspect of temperature will be storing the bread in the freezer, as very low temperature in freezer holds the recrystallization process by freezing the water in the bread and substantially reducing the movement of the starch crystals. Misconception: storing bread in refrigerator can slow down stirring and thus preserving freshness. Because when placed in the refrigerator, the rate at which the starch crystals reform is increased, as heat is withdrawn and the molecule realign faster than the bread at room temperature. Bread goes stale about 6 times faster in refrigerator than when kept at room temperature.
I am Noor and I will talk about how to reverse stirring. After learning how bread stirring occurs and the way to slow it down, we should also know the way to reverse stirring. So, how is it done? Simply by heating the bread, either by toasting it or warming it in an oven, up to at least 50 degrees Celsius. You will add enough energy to start the starch crystal moving away from their rigid crystalline structure, which will soften the bread until it begins to curl again. However, this method will be less effective when done a second or third time. In a nutshell, in some scenarios, for example, French toast is better when stale bread is used. However, most of the time, stirring is still considered as an unfavorable property in bread. Even though in general, consuming stale bread does not cause any health impact, however, it affects the mouthfeel. Thus, stale bread is still considered as an unacceptable to be stored as a product. In this scenario, it leads to the occurrence of losses to baking industry. Measure needs to be taken to preserve the freshness of bread, as stirring occurs as soon as it is taken out from the oven.
Alright, so this marks the end of our virtual presentation today. We hope that you have learned something and enjoyed watching our video. Alright, see ya!